Alright, YouTube, it's time for the Occult video 84 on crystals, scrying, crystal orbs like gazing balls, or magic crystals, and so forth, and etc. Generally related topics within the core of the occult. I believe that when you're talking about things like this, when you're talking about somebody, old witchy person, they have crystals all around their home, and the scrying bowl, and like glass balls, and the coins hanging everywhere. Sort of you could call it almost a theatrical element within the occult, sort of the stereotypical, there's herbs hanging everywhere and a cauldron in the corner stuff. I believe that mostly what is happening, it is twofold. It's a twofold view that I have. First and foremost, we shouldn't discount even like the Hollywood adaptation of the image of what denotes, what connotates the occult interior. Is it all the pentagrams on the walls and the dark draperies and the vampiric looking metallic instruments hanging on the wall with the sword and shield and stuff? Is it that, or is it the herbs and the sort of feel-good, glowy, Vaseline-coated camera shot aura of a dimly lit interior, sort of a Hobbiton look to it with all the garlic knots hanging from every window, and the kindly old spinster lady there with her with her sewing loom and stuff like that. I don't even think those should be completely discounted. First and foremost, the Hollywood accounts of sort of the occult interior, occult decoration, occult instruments, broomsticks, wands, whatever, is informed directly by more authentic versions within the occult. And think of, for instance, the demonology of King James being a takeoff of sort of the Burning Times literature. A lot of this imagery was popularized at the time. For instance, the Wicked Witch with the wart on her nose. She's always got a wart on her nose. Why? Because that's sort of the nipple or the mark of the beast, quite literally, the mark of Satan. You poke it with a needle, it never bleeds, and the imp comes and suckles it to gain nourishment and then gives the witch certain powers. That's where that imagery comes from. The image of the toadstool or the mushroom that's so prevalent not only in occult sort of regalia within a movie setting or within books or whatever, so the spooky swamp filled with mushrooms. Not only is it prevalent there, but you could think of it as a branch of psychonautics when you think about it. Even watching something as mundane as Fantasia. I remember watching Fantasia as a kid. I always enjoyed it, right? Then I watched it fairly recently as an adult, somebody who was more versed in herb lore and psychonautics, and I realized that there were like a dozen different psychotropic species in just one of the sort of little cartoon music videos that were there. There were heavenly blue morning glories. There was wolf's bane. There were amanita mushrooms. There were psilocybin mushrooms. There are all these species that are like dancing around and glowing and stuff. It's like I wonder what they were talking about. It's quite obvious looking back on it as an adult. As a kid, of course, it's just sort of fun imagery. It's colorful and flowers and they're pretty or whatever. As far as like crystals go, and all of this imagery associated with this basic concept, I would say it is unimportant in the sense that these specific implements hold an innate power. That is, I don't believe that simply by wearing a crystal you gain magical protection. But if you wear that crystal and believe that you've gained magical protection in a manner similar to a placebo effect, although it goes perhaps mentally a bit further than that, it changes the actions of the person wearing it. They're more sure of themselves. Simply the way that they carry themselves can help them avoid conflict. They actually, the people, a lot of our communication between one another isn't even verbal. It's in the form of gestures and pose and so forth. You cross your arms like this. People, subconsciously, they view you as unreceptive, leave you alone, you want to be left alone, and so forth. They had an interesting article a couple days ago in relation to the Olympics that said if you simply go like this, like sort of a victory pose, a pose of triumph, it actually gets your endorphins running. It actually can be helpful to just do that sort of thing, and you feel better. It's like the power of positive thinking sort of stuff. And it does. The physical gestures that we make inform others. They also affect our own biological makeup. So if you surround yourself with things within an occult setting that you find good for your specific practice. You find it helps you focus, it helps you get in the mood to perform a ritual or do whatever. For instance, sort of my decorations, I've got a whole shelf of occult books, I got the plants around me, I've got like a wizard staff and stuff. It does, honestly, it changes the mood of the room substantially enough to give me more ambition to edit more quickly, to speak of the occult in a more forthright manner that people can understand, a coherent manner. It does help with that. Certainly, it would be better than being in a crowded, dimly lit sort of office cubicle with a dying fluorescent bulb overhead, and I'd be dressed in sort of the dress casual stuff, and it would all be, and I'd have short hair, and I'd be all stuffy, and it would be very boring, and nobody would really give a shit about what I had to say about the occult, because the imagery wouldn't make sense to them. Here's this person, he looks like a middle management, like Dunder Mifflin consultant or something, and he's trying to talk to me about mysticism. What gives here? So you got to dress for success as well. That's probably a fairly wise saying as far as not just making YouTube videos and making them stick, but also with any practice within the spiritual. We would think, for instance, person dresses as a priest. It doesn't really have any holy significance, but you know that they're a priest. They know that they're a priest. It's come the person in the black sort of dress suit with the little white collar. He's a priest. He's a Catholic priest, or maybe an Episcopal priest or something. The Orthodox, the robes of the Orthodox Church, the manner of dress of a Buddhist monk, the red robe and the shaved head and so forth, and the little sort of prayer beads. In the same way, the things that we surround ourselves with, it goes well beyond just clothing and the appearance that we give to others. It goes into the appearance that we give to ourselves, the way in which we dress, the way in which we style. I like my facial hair. I've got the little goatee. Well, I could have a great big like beekeeper beard, or I could be clean shaven. I could have short hair or something like that. This is the look that makes me feel the most confident, that I happen to think looks the most attractive for my facial features as well. I've got a long face. I chose to accentuate it with a goatee and the long hair. I don't want to have short hair and be clean shaven. I don't want to look like some Hitler Youth or something, because I study the spiritual side of things. I'm into the spooky side of things, and so forth. I've got a whole bunch of quartz crystals behind the little dragon over there. I had them in the front, and there's a I won't disclose the reason, but there's a specific reason that they're behind the dragon right now. I'll bring them out to the front at some point. I keep forgetting. Maybe I'll discuss that at some other point. It's nothing nefarious, but it's kind of a funny story anyway. But, I mean, the things you surround yourself with, insofar as you are in an academic or spiritual practice, it matters. Not necessarily in the sense of, oh, feng shui, oh, you've got to get that energy moving. Not energy in the metaphysical sense, perhaps, but certainly the way in which you react to your surroundings. You can tell when you go into a home, or an office, or a park, or a forest or something, there are certain zones, areas, that you'll go into that feel better than others. They are more conducive to you being in a relaxed state. It's true. It's just the way that you react as a biological being to your surroundings. Therefore, altering your surroundings, especially with regards to any ritual work you're doing, especially if you believe, as many do, that focus, psychological focus, is necessary for spiritual focus, it has great import. And so by surrounding yourself with the crystals and the scrying glass and the magic balls and so forth, if that imagery suits you, it is good to do so. If you like having a bunch of incense and herbs dangling around you, then do so. I do, by the way. Only the fact that I don't have a bunch of herbs to bundle up and hang behind me keeps me from doing that at the moment. I wanted to have my chamomile, I wanted to have a big-ass glass jar full of the fresh chamomile. I don't have a big-ass glass jar to put it in right now, even though I've got enough chamomile to fill it with. So literally, I've got like a paper towel folded over around all these like dried chamomile flowers. They'll keep for months and months. It's no big deal. But at the same time, it's not exactly as energetically decorative as I would like. So I would say the main point, the main purpose behind these things, isn't so much their specific use within any ritual context. It's their conduciveness as decoration, as something that manipulates the mind of the occultist during ritual work, which may involve such things. Of course, you can use whatever you want in your rituals according to whatever grimoire you're using, whatever sort of occult path you follow, whatever is more accepted within your path, whatever you respond more to. You can make it up yourself, or you can use something that's more prescribed. It's like Here's an aside, and then I'll end the video, I guess, because I basically exhausted the topic. I've had a lot of people ask me, oh, can you give me a spell that will make this person love me, or give me a spell that'll destroy my enemy or something? And what I tell them is, it would be, if you're interested in these things, you should be endeavoring to find what works for you within a psychological context for these things. Because some prescribed ritual, even if you completely believe in the mystic, you believe in it quite literally, a prescribed ritual may not be something that works for you specifically. You may want to make it up, you may want to adapt a ritual or something of that nature, and I generally point them to worthy literature on the topic. And if I haven't released an edition of it, then there are always other editions available. And that's basically as far as it goes. I can't give you a spell that'll make somebody love you, and I would ask them also, why would you specifically want to force this person to do so if they don't feel so already? If you haven't approached them, then what are you complaining about? Go approach them first and find out if they're receptive. You may not need magic at all. It's as simple as that. So yeah, these are good decorations. They can be conducive to occult ritualism, but I don't see them as strictly necessary within an occult context. That's about all. Peace out.